Some people have an interest in fitness. Other people, maybe they love cooking. Well, our next guest's fixation surrounded something much darker. She became obsessed with a serial killer. This is Claudia's story.
I'm a reporter, and when I was first in Poughkeepsie, I was working for the local paper, and then I was working as a freelancer for the New York Times. My boyfriend at the time would come home every night and say, "Claudia, there are missing women flyers going up on Main Street. Nobody is writing about this. You gotta get on this." What I learned was that these were women who had been estranged from their families for a very long time. Most of them also were addicted to drugs and were streetwalking to support their habits. The first woman was reported missing in 1996, almost exactly 2 years later. Kendall Francois confessed. Then police go in and search the home and find all these bodies. And his parents are home, sister is there, and all this time there were bodies in the basement and in the attic.
There were all kinds of secrets in that house.
So the thing with Kendall was a pretty consistent pattern. He would pick up women on Main Street.
This was his neighborhood. One of them he picked up right around the bank here.
And he would take them home, and they would go into his room, be completing their transaction. As soon as they said, "I gotta go," he would flip and strangle them while raping them. So I covered the arrest, the confession, his various court appearances. But this case was in my head. I just couldn't get away from it. Who would do this? What kind of person? What does it mean? I didn't even know entirely what I was looking for, but I knew that I wanted to understand cruelty. There have been things in my life that were hard. When I was younger, things were not great at home. I was ruminating for years. When you knowingly hurt, why do you do it again? And so I finally wrote to Kendall in the county jail. I did get a letter back. Every time I received a letter from him, I was terrified to open it. I just kept doing it. In all, our total correspondence of phone calls, letters, and visits was about 4.5 years. I was obsessed with this. Yeah, this was really a personal quest. What happened was I started writing about this, and when I began to kind of connect this outer story, Kendall and his dysfunction, with my own story, it changed me.
Claudia now joins us along with forensic psychologist Dr. Judy Ho in our audience. And Claudia, this is a fascinating story, your story. You became very personally involved in this, and I'm curious about that because the one thing that I've read or learned about serial killers is they're can be master manipulators. How did that affect you personally?
I had my own history of sort of emotional violence and rage in my family that had never really been addressed. And I felt that in many ways the story of Kendall Francois was a story of denial. There was sort of denial within the community about these women who were missing for years and years and almost no coverage of it. Then there was denial within Kendall's own family. They were living in a home where there were maggots dropping from the ceiling and feces and rotten food. I mean, and they were then going out into the world and having regular jobs and going to school, college. So there was this.
His mom was a mental health. She worked in mental health.
She was a psychiatric nurse. There was this disconnect between the public face and what was really going on. This profound rot and decay within the home, and that kind of echoed Poughkeepsie itself, which was seen as this lovely sort of upstate New York rural community, but had this profound sort of social decay on Main Street.